Hi, welcome to FilmSauce. I'm FilmSauce, and in this Sauce video we're looking at Scream, released in 1996. Directed by Wes Craven and written by Kevin Williamson, Scream is a movie about a girl haunted by the death of her mother and an unknown killer. Throughout this film I also reward on a gate source points, and at the end I'll tally them up to see how sourceful this movie is. Now, let's watch this spooky film. The movie starts off with a few logos for Q Weinstein, which is followed by a scream and a phone call, with Drew Barrymore picking up to some sexy guy who called the wrong number, so she hangs up multiple times, but he keeps calling. Now they get to actual talking about scary movies and that, such as Halloween and Nightmare on Elm Street. But don't worry about Elm Street, because all the sequels suck. Right, Craven? Now it gets creepy with this line.
I want to know who I'm looking at.
This puts Drew on guard with her looking outside, hanging up the coal, and locking the backyard door. Mojo Joe keeps calling through until he threatens Drew with gutting her like a fish, but I'm sure the blondie can handle that. Terrified, Drew locks all the doors, but now she's still getting cyberbullied and was scared by multiple ringing at the door. After declaring her boyfriend would beat him up, it's revealed that her boyfriend, Steve, has already been caught and tied up. To save her boyfriend and herself, Drew must play a game, a questionnaire about horror films, where she guesses all questions right.
Jason!
I'm sorry. That's the wrong answer.
Never mind. With Drew giving the wrong answer, it looks like her boyfriend is out and gutted like a fish. And a kill, I feel, is kind of forgotten and overshadowed. But hey, final question time, with the question being, what door is the killer at? Drew grabs a knife, and a man in black robes is running around. Drew sneakily creeps outside watching the killer, but now off in the distance we see her parents. Oh no, the killer is revealed, being Ghostface, who is now after her and catches her, stabbing her in the chest. But being a sloppy killer, Drew kicks him off and screams for her parents. Never mind. Drew unmasks the killer for her to see, but not the viewers, so keep guessing. And now the parents are home, see the chaos that has happened to the house, and hear over the phone Drew's last breaths, with a man grunting. The parents prepare to go down to the Mackenzies, but they see the gutted, hanging body of their daughter. Amazing opening sequence, hits all the marks for a horror movie, plus 2 source points. In the same night, we meet this film's final girl, and my personal favourite final girl, Sydney Prescott, who immediately gets jumped by a greasy boyfriend, Billy Loomis. Mr. Prescott now comes upstairs, causing Billy to hide, and Sid to cover up for him. But Mr. Prescott is mainly here to tell Sid how he will be out of town in the morning, so good luck. Billy now talks to Sid about how he wants to take their relationship to the next level and do a sex. Sydney wants to keep things PG-13, and Billy, being somewhat a good boyfriend, says, I respect your boundaries and don't want to push you. Basically. Morning time is here and Sid is at school, which is crowded with news stations, cops, and students. Sid meets up with a gal pal Tatum, who tells Sydney about the slaughtering of Drew Barrymore. What was his name? Sam. Tatum also brings up how this is the worst crime seen in the small town of Woodsboro in years, even over the murder of Sid's mother, Maureen Prescott. Sydney is now called up for interrogation with Principal Himbry, Sheriff Burke, and Tatum's brother Dewey, who is a big boy cop, and a very important part of the series. Now we meet the rest of the friend group: Shaggy, Stu and Randy, with these two making fun of the murders. Stu explains how to gut someone to Sydney. That's nice. Now immediately, people are throwing out suspects, but don't worry, Stu was with Tatum last night, Randy was working. We already saw the PG-13 stuff with Sydney and Billy, all good alibis. Sid is now home again at a house with an amazing view, but she'll be leaving it for the night to have a sleepover with Tatum and Dewey. Before the sleepover, Sid puts on the news talking about last night's murders and the murder of Sid's mother. But screw that, let's have nap time. Sid wakes up to a phone call, and it's Tatum, who's late to pick up Sid, but I'm sure that doesn't matter in the slightest.
Hello, Sydney.
Never mind. Now Sid is talking to a nice man, who she thinks is just Randy, playing a prank, but we all know it's not him. The man asks Sid if she likes scary movies, and she just hates on this epic genre by saying they're all the same with a big-breasted girl who can't act goes upstairs instead of the front door. Sid has some fun with the creep, picking her nose for the millions of film enjoyers. But the creep goes too far with bringing her mother up. Sid runs inside, locking the door. Oh, and there he is, attacking Sid to ground where she kicks him off and runs upstairs, like the horror girls who can't act. She locks the door with another door. That is seriously such bad architecture. But it saves her from Ghostface for enough time for Sydney to dial the police on a computer, and Billy to show up once the Ghostface is gone, and he drops the phone. Sid, being smart, runs downstairs where she comes face to face with Ghostface. Dewey. Dewey and the boys in brown arrest Billy Loomis, taking him away to the station, as well as Sid, and finally here is Tatum. Oh, and Monica Geller, who's here with Jesus.
My name isn't Jesus.
And Monica immediately calls Jesus fat. In the station we find out Mr. Prescott is missing, and Billy is being interrogated and being held by the cops until his phone records are processed. Sid, Tatum, and Dewey now have to do their hardest task of escaping journalists, including Monica. Yeah, I can't do this friends joke the whole video. I'll call her real name Gail. Gail finds Sydney, where it is revealed to us how Gail and Sid have a history over Maureen Prescott's murder, which Gail wrote a book about, but now the bitch goes down. At the sleepover, Gail battles Till with Dewey being right next door, ready to use the vacuum on his dick. Wrong movie. Now there is another phone call for Sid, and it's Ghostface, making fun of Sydney for fingering the wrong guy again. Red Right Hand now plays over us learning how the other guy she fingered is Cotton Weary, believed to be the murderer of Maureen Prescott. Oh, and good news, I guess, but Billy has been released. Fordad's not the killer. At school now there is a media circus around the school, but Sid only pays attention to Gail, talking to her off record. Here we learn that Sid saw Cotton Weary walk out of the crime scene of Sydney's mother's murder with a bloody jacket, which was found in his car, making obvious who the murderer was, but not for Gail, who theorized that Cotton was framed. Sid clearly seems to be having a second thought, making Gail excited over a potential news story that she could use to save a man's life. That would be good for the book sales. For the school day, Sid talks to Tatum and Stu, who tells Sid how Billy is heartbroken over her fingering the wrong guy again. Oh, and some students have no empathy and play cosplay of the murderer, dragging a mannequin of Drew. But now it's potty time, so Sid goes to the toilet, where she runs into Billy, where him being boyfriend of the year tells her to get over the death of her mother, like how he got over his mother leaving town. Very similar. Now for real potty time, where she hears some girls being bitchy and calling her the killer, really putting her down. While she chills in this toilet stall, let me just say, there is a reason she's my favourite final girl. Neve Campbell does great in this film and all future films. +2 source points. After a quick Ghostface scare in the bathroom, we're now once again with the principal, played by the guy from the hit movie Click, where he expels some kids, sees Freddy Krueger, and gets murdered. Outside the school, Deputy Dewey meets up with Gale, where they do some flirting, with Gale wanting Dewey over at Chandler. But this also rings true in real life, as these two actors eventually got married. That's nice. But, they flirt a bit, and we cut to the next scene of Tatum and Sid walking out of school and Stu telling them about a party tonight at his house to celebrate this little scare. Now we see Sid and Tatum chilling and saying how maybe Maureen was probably a cheater and how Cotton could be innocent. And Gale is right, which scares Sid because that means the killer is still out there. But don't go there, Sid. You're beginning to sound like a Wes Carpenter flick. But now we catch up with Randy at the video store with Stu, talking about the possible suspects, and how Randy suspects Billy, while Stu suspects Sydney's father, Mr. Prescott, which is Randy rambling about Mr. Prescott's probably dead and how there's a very simple formula of everyone being a suspect, which causes Billy to confront Randy, saying that Randy could possibly be the killer while Stu plays with his ears. But hey, Randy admits he is a prime suspect, and we cut to the next scene, where you see Woodsboro close down, the Gale pals get beers, and Dewey talk to Chief Burke about how the phone calls of the killer were listed from Mr. Prescott. And the next day is the anniversary of his wife Maureen Prescott's murder. Interesting. Now as the Youth of America plays, the Gale pals and Dewey roll up to the party at this grandiose house, where the whole second half of the film is set. Also pulling up is Gale and Jesus, ready to stalk some party goers, but Dewey is here to stop this. Never mind, he is flirting with her and bringing her into the party. Stu, going to answer the door, asks Tatum to go get another beer, but not before seeing her brother bring Gale in, who places a camera to watch the party goers. Creepy. Keeping to her promise, Tatum goes to the garage to collect some beers, but the door closes behind her and locks. No biggie, she walks through the garage door. Never mind, it's closing, and the person closing it is Casper the Ghost, who Tatum mocks a bit before getting sliced. Now in an action scene where we see a sloppy Ghostface really getting beaten up by a fridge, beers, and stairs. But he uses the ultimate weapon of a garage door that Tatum was stuck in because of her breasts, I think? Anyway, somehow the garage door lifts her up, squishing her. Now back with Sid, Billy pops up, taking Sid upstairs to talk, making Randy sad because his chance with Sid is gone. Jesus now has live camera footage, but oh no, there was a 30-second delay or so. But I'm sure that doesn't matter. Back with Billy and Sid, she apologizes to Billy for letting the death of her mother scare her, but Billy being supportive calls everything a movie, which makes Sid happy enough to decide to jump from PG-13 to R. Downstairs, the party continues with the partygoers watching Halloween, where Randy finds out his fellow partygoers are practically horror virgins. So Randy takes it upon himself to explain the 3 rules, with them being no sex, no alcohols or drugs, and finally, never say I'll be right back. Honestly, iconic scene, +1 source point. Dewey has now been radioed in that a car down the road from Stu's house has been seen. So it takes Gale and they go investigate. While they're getting Billy and Sid hot and heavy, while the downstairs partygoers are getting horny over Halloween girls, until Randy answers the phone, where he and the partygoers find out that Principal Himbry is dead and has been hung up on the football field, causing all partygoers to leave Randy to see the body before it's pried down. On their way out, the reckless teens nearly run over Dewey and Gale, who jump off the road and kiss, but Gale spots the car they were looking for, and the funny thing is, the car is owned by Mr. Prescott. After the bump in the night, Sid questions Billy about who he called in jail. Billy answers his dad, but Burke called Billy's dad. Interesting. Billy is now getting progressively creepier until Ghostface appears behind him, stabbing Billy a few times, and now the chase begins. They run across the second story a bit until Sid locks herself in the attic, where she proceeds to jump out the window. Coincidentally, down on the street now, Sid is faced with Tatum's mangled corpse. Randy, peacefully watching Halloween, is about to be murdered by the Ghostface. From behind, all while, he is telling Jamie Lee Curtis to turn around. Haha, funny. Anyway, Sid is screaming, distracts Ghostface as she runs towards the news van with Jesus, where they watch Randy get stalked by Ghostface. Jesus hops out the van to save Randy, but remembers the live footage has a 30-second delay, and before he could do anything, his neck is slashed off. Sid escapes the news van before Dewey and Gale show up. Gale goes to radio the police, and Dewey goes inside the murder house. Gale at her news van finds some Kool-Aid and a Randy, scaring her to drive away, with Jesus' body on top of the van. Gale is driving away, but Sid pops up on the road, causing Gale to go off the road and crash. Sydney, out front of the house, finds Dewey, who stumbles to the ground, revealing a knife in his back. The knife is soon collected by Ghostface, chasing Sid into Dewey's car, where she can't drive away because Ghostface has keys and is unlocking all the doors. But unnoticed by Sid, the Ghostface opens the boot, climbs in, and attacks Sid, who kicks him away and runs into the house, looking back to see Randy and Stu, who are both accusing each other of being the Ghostface. And Sid locks them both out. Behind Sid is a surprisingly still alive Billy, who falls down the stairs. Sid runs to his side, lifting him up to the door, where he grabs the gun and lets Randy in, who tells the two that Stu has gone mad. But
We all go a little mad sometimes.
So Billy shoots Randy, revealing Billy as the killer. Sid attempts to flee, running into Stu, who reveals himself as the killer as well. This scene is so iconic, and the reveal of these two being the Ghostface is impossible to top off. Plus two teenage murderers corner Sid in the kitchen, mentally torturing her and showing off how they framed Cotton Weary and were responsible for the murder of Sid's mum. And she asks for a motive, so Billy tells Sid how her slut mother was doing it with Billy's father, being the reason his mother left town, and him. They also tease Sid over no longer being a virgin, so now she must die because those are the rules. Sue now brings in tied Sid's up dad. Once it hit after midnight, now being a year after the murder of Maureen Prescott. The reason for the kidnapped father is to do his plan is to blame it all on Mr. Prescott, leaving Billy and Stu alive without a scratch. Never mind. After stabbing each other till Stu gets a little woozy, they decide to get the gun and finish it. But the gun is gone with a still breathing and alive Gale Weathers holding it. Billy knows something she doesn't though. The safety is on, and Billy easily knocks her out. While this was going on, Sid vanishes with her father, where off screen she calls the police and then she calls the murderers to taunt them. Stu is on the line while he is, I'm gonna add one source point for the extreme acting of Matthew Lillard as Stu. Bravo. Billy, now ravaging around the house, finds that the third Ghostface. Never mind, it's just Sydney, who stabs Billy with an umbrella. But the action ain't over yet, with Stu running in. A brief scuffle happens where Stu confesses his feelings for Sid. That's cute. Anyway, Sid dies from too much TV, which is bad for your eyes, kids. Sydney now leans down where she's jump-scared by a still-living Randy. And a fist. Billy is now on top of Sid, choking her to death until she pokes his wounds, stunning him long enough to be shot by Gale Weathers, who didn't forget the safety this time. The three awake living survivors gathered up over Billy's body, where Randy reminds us,
"Careful. This is the moment when the supposedly dead killer comes back to life for one last scare."
Not in my movie.
It just happens, Sid. Oh, and for one last scare, the father busts through the closet, still alive, similar to Dewey, who gives a nice little thumbs up, exiting in an ambulance. Now the film ends with Gale Weathers giving a report of the night's events as the camera overlooks the sunrise next to the famed Scream, farm. A movie that changed the horror genre for the 90s and created a franchise still somewhat going today. But how well did it do on the source points? Scream had a total of 8 delicious source points, with no crappy artificial flavours, aka no negatives. So even this out to 8 source points, and that was FilmSauce Scream 1996. If you haven't already, subscribe and leave a comment. Those are always fun. Hopefully I'll see you again. Goodbye.